Hello, everybody. Welcome to 6 Minutes a Day, a journey to your higher self. My name is Justin, creator of Strength Yoga Freedom, and I am so excited that you're here today. Whether you're listening on the podcast version or you're watching on YouTube, if you are new and you have not yet had a chance to go through the first part of this training program, the first 15 days, we talked all about recognizing things within ourselves, why we're in a certain place in our life, where are we in certain places of our life, what we need to do with habits and routines, and we talked about the mind, and now we're moving into how we can take all of that information and use that self-love that we've cultivated to deal with other people. So yesterday in day number 16, we did a relationship scan. After thinking about moving from a place of self-love and how we handle ourselves, and not from moving from a place where we operate based on how everyone else handles themselves. So we also thought about our relationships, and we did a scan, and we thought, gee, does this seem right? So is the behavior coming from someone else? Does it feel right to you? Now remember, we're not coming from a judgmental place. We're coming from a place of pure self-love, what you see in front of you. And I want to add this before we move on. We are not mind readers, so we don't know someone else's intention. All we can tell is how they behave or what they say. That's why self-love is so important, because you're operating from your true and authentic place and only taking what everyone else does and says at face value without judging or trying to interpret what they're doing. Take it at face value. That'll come in handy. So let's talk about what passive-aggressive behavior is. It is indirectly expressing negative feelings instead of openly addressing them. Now remember, I just said we need to take what people say or do at face value. So if someone is indirectly expressing negative feelings instead of openly addressing them, I have ways that you can clarify what someone is trying to communicate if they're being passive aggressive like that. So let's talk about it. Let's first talk about examples of passive aggressive behaviors. I'm going to read off some of the examples that I have for you. The first one is asking someone, "Are you upset?" So if you say to someone, "Are you upset?" and they respond, "Oh, I'm fine," and then they don't talk anymore, or they have the pouty face, or they look rigid, "I'm fine." That's an example. Another example is asking someone to do a task who you might be in relationship with, and that doesn't mean a romantic one, it could be anybody, and they say, "Yes, I'll do it," and they never do it. That happens a lot at work. If you're managing other people and you ask people to do something and they don't do it, that's passive aggressive. Backhanded compliments is also passive aggressive. So a backhanded compliment would be something like, "Oh, I see you rearranged the storefront. Oh, I'm so surprised." Okay, so that's a backhanded compliment. And then another one is punishing people by withholding information, breaking things, moving things, or taking action that's not related to the general intention or focus of the situation, like acting out or deflecting. A big passive aggressive one that you might be surprised to hear is giving someone the silent treatment. There is difference between the silent treatment and no contact. And we're going to talk about what no contact means later in our training, but that's different than the silent treatment. The silent treatment is used to punish someone for what you believe they have done wrong. So those are all passive aggressive examples. So what do you do if someone is acting in a passive aggressive way? Well, first thing to do is look inside yourself first. Are you acting in a passive aggressive way? So maybe take a note of what your thoughts are like and what you're speaking. Maybe reflect on that as you're journaling. A one-off here and there is not concerning, but always look for patterns. We all are human, we all make mistakes. But when you're talking about patterns of behavior, oh, this person said that again, or this person did that again, and then again, and then again. So watch for the patterns. Watch for it yourself, watch for it in others. I like to use two phrases when someone gets passive aggressive with me. And I'm in the conversation. In that moment, I have to respond with something because you're in the situation. So I use, one of the things I say is, let's go back to the I am fine example. So I ask someone, are you okay? And they go, I'm fine. I like to say, when you say I am fine, do you really mean I am not fine? And then let them respond to that. If they keep going, if they keep going with that kind of behavior, I say, well, I'd love to continue this conversation, but not like this. So we'll continue it later. And that's an example of setting a boundary, which we'll talk about later too. But if they actually open up and you can have a conversation about them not being fine, then there you go. But my first reaction a lot of times is saying, when you say I am fine, do you really mean I am not fine? And then I also may ask people to repeat themselves to be more specific. So sometimes asking someone to repeat what they just said that could be passive aggressive makes someone, they kind of get, oh no, because they have to repeat what they just said. Let's use the storefront example. Could you be more specific as to why you are surprised that I would rearrange the storefront? Be more specific. And a lot of times, they don't have a response to that because the passive aggressiveness does not come from a place of planning. Passive aggressive behavior is actually rooted in a lack of self-love, and research also shows that passive aggressive behavior can be learned when you're growing up from caregivers or people around you. So we need to first understand that that's where a lot of times passive aggressive comments or behavior comes from. But when you're dealing with passive aggressiveness in the moment, it can feel as though you're being attacked. So I like to really engage in saying, when you say this, do you mean this? Or I ask you to repeat yourself. The other thing that I have done, and I like to do as well, is I stop engaging in the conversation because I feel like my energy is not going to be wasted. If someone is coming at me with passive aggressive remarks, it might be time to end the conversation and say what I said earlier. I would love to continue talking, but not like this. We will pick this up at another time, and you remove yourself from the situation. You can do that easily, a little more easily if you're on a phone or a text message. But if you're dealing with it in person, it might be a little harder to walk away, but you have the option to walk away if you feel like the conversation is going nowhere. A chronic passive aggressive behavior can actually destroy a lot of relationships. So it is very important, again, to communicate very clearly, to communicate with intention. I'm talking about how you communicate. Communicate clearly, communicate with intention. And remember, it is about the love that you have for you and the love that you have for others. Because when you're showing self-love and demonstrating how you operate in front of others, you're inadvertently and indirectly teaching others what self-love means. Self-love is not enabling passive-aggressive behavior or participating in passive-aggressive behavior. That shows everybody else that you're going to revert to foolish behavior. All right? The practice of yoga is intentional. It's not foolish in any way. So removing yourself or stopping any kind of conversation, asking for clarification, is okay to do. You're honoring yourself. You may start to notice in your relationships that some folks around you may have certain patterns or tendencies, or you may have them. All you're doing is recognizing them and figuring out ways that you can help maneuver it for yourself, not for them, for you, because you're not here to fix others. You're here to learn, to grow, and to really be taught by all those master teachers who are out there teaching you. And you are a master teacher by the way you're teaching others. I hope today that as you're moving through your day and you find the smile, you find the laugh, you find some carefree moments, that you enjoy it. You deserve it. I'll see you next time, everybody.